Ooh wee, my little degenerates. Ooh wee, ooh wee, ooh wee. Can we just take a moment, my little degenerates, to to just to just say goodbye to MK1? All right. Can we just take a moment to mourn the loss of MK1? Just take a moment. Because despite how the game came out, there was some good stuff. So I just want to take this moment to not only mourn the game, mourn NRS hard work, and mourn the community. Because I know this announcement of MK1 being dead hits hard. So without further ado, let's just take a moment. And now that moment is over, we can finally get on with the actual video. What's up, everyone? It's your boy, Mr. Degenerate here. Back at it again for another video. And as always, we knew it was coming. We knew the death of MK1 was coming. But, as I said in one of my previous videos, discussing the rumors about it possibly being dead, it's almost kind of like a bittersweet moment. For those that don't know, MK1 Definitive Edition was announced. And usually when a fighting game comes out with a Definitive Edition, that's usually like game development is over. There's no more DLC or anything. They wrapped up development on that game, and now they're moving on to the next project, which when the announcement first hit, it was kind of like people was still like kind of like hanging on to hope. They were like, oh, well, maybe there's saving stuff for the Ultimate Edition. And then the Mortal Kombat Twitter account basically reiterated what I just said and was like, hey, expect updates, expect balance patches for the game, but overall, don't expect anything in terms of characters, DLC. Don't expect any more continuation on costumes or anything like that. All you'll receive is probably a little bit of balance changes, but that's about it. We're moving on to our next project, and it sucks, but we got to move on to our next project. And I gotta say, it's a bittersweet moment. It's a bittersweet moment. I see a lot of people getting upset about Ed Boon, and saying that, oh, Ed Boon lied. Ed Boon said like, hey, he promised us like more years of Mortal Kombat support for any other Mortal Kombat game. This game was supposed to do that. He's been saying that for all Mortal Kombat games. And I want to basically say, and I said it before in my other video, he don't run the show. Ed Boon is just a developer. He is probably the spokesperson of Mortal Kombat, but he don't own the fucking rights to Mortal Kombat. Who owns the rights? Warner Brothers. So if Warner Brothers wants to do whatever they want to do with Mortal Kombat, they can. If they want to get rid of Ed Boon, they sure hell can. All right. So I need people to wake up. You can put the blame and you can blame everybody, but the truth of the matter is, the game was gonna die eventually. It wasn't meeting expectations of what the fans wanted. It wasn't anything that people really expect or lived up to the quality level of the previous Mortal Kombat games. So for me, as much as I would love it to continue, like I was really hoping, there was that one glimpse of me that was hoping, that we would have gotten another like season pass, which it seemed like they were working on it, but that probably got shelved because Warner Brothers said cut that shit. At the end of the game was a flop. And we can blame not only just NetherRealm, but Warner Brothers. I think both parties are at fault, but it really doesn't matter. The game just didn't meet that expectation that I think, or the quality level that I think a Mortal Kombat game should have. But I feel like there's a lot to be learned from this. I don't want this video to come off as me just hating on NRS or whatever. I actually think, and I've said it numerous times, hadn't had a fun time with a Mortal Kombat game since Mortal Kombat X. And this felt more in line with Mortal Kombat X. But I just generally believe this was not what the fans or the community was asking. And I think, this is a growing time for NRS. This is the first time where they actually have a game that's not that well received, at least from the community. And I think this is a learning time for them. So for me, I guess the question I should bring to you guys is, what do you think the next MK game, or what is the next IP or whatever game they're working on, what should they take away from Mortal Kombat 1? And I think for me, the biggest thing they should take away is that they should stick with a fucking formula and stop changing. I think the greatest issue that the MK NetherRealm era of MK games have is that they all feel different and try to do new things, but they're not sticking with a particular formula. Like Mortal Kombat 9 for Mortal Kombat X feels similar, but then when you get to fucking 11 and MK1, it feels vastly different. And it's like, bruh, like, a lot of people are not really enjoying that or find that amusing. So why the hell are you keep changing the formula? That would be like if Street Fighter, it became more of a Marvel game, and then we went back to a Street Fighter style game, and then we're constantly not innovated on what we already had, I think that's the biggest problem with NetherRealm, is that they're not innovating on what they already have. I don't care at this point, and I don't like the footsie style of MK11, but I'd rather take that and improve on that than to just say, okay, let's scrap that shit and now let's make a combo heavy game with assist characters that people don't fuck with. I personally think as the game went on, the assist characters got better, but that's not Mortal Kombat. I think people really appreciate or really love just the 1v1 aspect of Mortal Kombat. Stop trying to throw in these gimmicks, these little mini gimmicks, whether that be the cameo system, whether that be regenerated meter. Stop throwing out these gimmicks and just give us a traditional Mortal Kombat fighting game. And if you do want to do a gimmick, I would recommend go back to the midway era of Mortal Kombat, which was, swords. You could go into stance, into your weapons, into another stance, like stance switching. I think that would be interesting because, again, we have a fucking button on the controller that absolutely does absolutely nothing except flip your character to side to side. That's useless. So I think it would be better. I think there are so many good lessons to learn from MK1 that I really hope whatever the next game is that they will take from. I would also say, in terms of story, we gotta do something other than multiverse. All right, people is tired of it. People don't want the shit. And again, you had a pretty good story at the beginning with the whole, like, the new era, the peaceful era of Mortal Kombat. Let's focus on that. Let's not introduce multiverse shenanigans or otherworldly shit. Let's just focus on a tournament and people trying to deal with what's going on in the tournament. And I think that would be better. I also think in terms of online, I think a lobby system would be extremely beneficial. I think that would be amazing. I think it's crazy that Mortal Kombat isn't taking from what the newer fighting games are doing, with a big lobby system where you can have your friends and other group of people in one lobby, and y'all are all doing King of the Hill, switching between each other, watching it, spectating, and doing all that shit. It's crazy that MK1 doesn't have any of those features. Hell, I wouldn't even mind if you guys even copy Street Fighter 6 and make a like avatar lobby where you can go around and interact with other like people and whatnot. Something to make it just feel different and unique, but also get with the times, you know? So I would say those are the core pillars that need to be addressed in the next NRS game. I would also say DLC. The way how they handle DLC is so piss poor. Again, like, I'm all fine with guest characters. I think, again, guest characters are the reason why casuals or people like me who play fighting games on a casual level would be interested in your fighting game. However, it shouldn't be the be all end all. Like, I think a lot of what pissed me off about MK1 is that how much guest characters there were, where there's like this new universe and new established lore and shit that I want to be explored. I would have loved to see this new era style and new interpretation of Jade. I would love to see Sonya Blade. Like these characters are iconic and so beloved by fans. You see people cosplay them, you see people have tattoos of them. They are so iconic, and to not be represented in the game, instead we're pushing Omni-Man and, you know, other characters that I don't give a fuck. Now, granted, I did feel like in season 2, the characters that we did get, like the T-1000 and fucking Ghostface was awesome. Out of all of them, Ghostface was a cool guest character, and this is coming from someone who literally generally was saying, I don't want Ghostface, I what the fuck can Ghostface do? And he's so much fun in the game. So, you know, I really am not saying don't put guest characters, but I would love to see more characters from, you know, the 3D era, or just characters from the Mortal Kombat universe reimagining, reinterpreted, than just fucking guest characters everywhere. You know, it was cool to see Takeda, but I would have loved to see all the rest of the combat kids, like Jackie, fucking Sonya's daughter, like Cool Jin, my boy Cool Jin. I would love these characters to come back and in a different way, in a different role, but you know, they didn't do that, and instead they wanted to focus on DLC characters. So I think going forward, we need to have a better balance of DLC characters. And in terms of also like stories, you know, story expansions, I think that's cool that they do it. But if you don't have a good story to tell, just save it for the next game. You know, save it for the next game, because Chaos Reigns was a big waste of fucking time. And I just don't really care for it. And also, I would say like design-wise, I do think we need to do better with the design. I feel like with every Mortal Kombat game, the character designs peaked at 11, and now we're gone back to 0. And it's like, come on, NetherRealm, come on. Like, you guys know this. You guys got this. But, you know, I guess the big elephant on the room is, what's the next Mortal Kombat game? Or what's the next thing that NRS is working on? What should they be working on is the question of the day. And I would actually like to hear your opinions on what do you think is the game that NRS is working on now. But I've heard so much different conflictions of what they're working on. Some people saying that they're hoping that it's Injustice. You have Max saying that they hope they're taking a break and working on Injustice or something else. or and you have my boy Lotus Streets. Shout out to my boy Lotus Streets, man. Good YouTuber. He's gone on a record saying it gotta the next Mortal Kombat game gotta be Mortal Kombat 2 or Mortal Kombat 12. Me personally, I am going to be a contrarian and think they should do neither. I would love NRS to work on a new IP, or if you really want to continue Mortal Kombat in a cool, exciting way, a Shaolin Monks sequel or just a Shaolin Monks spiritual successor would be awesome. I think NetherRealm is so talented that it's crazy to me that, you know, despite how Mortal Kombat 1 came out, it's crazy to me that they're not working, that these guys are just doing fighting games. And that was the cool part about the Midway era, is that these guys wasn't just doing fighting games. These guys were doing fucking like adventure games. And Shaolin Monks was like one of their most prized possession, you know? And I would love for them to do something like that. Or even if they want to play around a little bit and do something creative, I would love for them to, you know, ask Marvel for the rights and do a Marvel versus DC fighting game. That would be kind of awesome. Let's give them something different to do. I do agree with Maximilian in a sense that I do think there is kind of this blowout of MK. I do think the creative juice isn't there in Mortal Kombat 11. I mean, Mortal Kombat 1 compared to 11. 11 to me goes fucking bonkers. You know, despite my issues with that game, the presentation and just the way how the fatalities and the gear pieces, oh my goodness. Like up to this day, I still like rewatch the fatalities of MK11 because they do this stylized like they do the stylized slow motion after every finishing kill, and it just looks sick as fuck. I'm like, oh my goodness, like they cooked. Why did we not carry that into MK1? You know? And so again, I think there's a lot they could go for, a lot they could do, but you know, it's all up to them. Overall, I would say this, you know, it is a bittersweet situation that, you know, MK is officially dead. You know, I do feel like if it was given enough time, it could have been a really good fighting game, a really great fighting game in my humble opinion. But because of that awful launch, because of just really poor decisions, I can see why Warner Brothers was like, I'm not continuing with this. Shut it down, move on to the next project. And I think it's for the best. As much as I would have loved to see it continue, I think it's for the best, man. I have hope that NRS, now that they got the shit kicked out of them, they'll rise up and make a great fighting game. Make something that'll stand toe-to-toe next to MK9, MK11, and MKX. Because as much as I like MK1, I still don't believe that this game has met the quality level that even MK11, someone as me who's not even an MK11 fan, I'm not seeing that same quality of level that was in that previous game in MK1. So I think it's for the best that we as a community and everybody just move on from this. With all that being said, let's go do it for my video. Thank you everyone for watching the video. I know I'm very behind on videos. I have a little project that I'm working on. It's been taking up most of my time, so that's why the videos have not been coming out. But best believe I will be doing more videos. And as always, if you liked the video, please comment, rate, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let me know, what did you think about Mortal Kombat 1? What are some elements of Mortal Kombat 1 do you think could have been improved? And what would you like to see in the next Mortal Kombat game or the next NRS game as a whole? Comment below, let me know. And as always, more videos are coming soon. It's your boy, Mr. Degenerate, signing out. Have a good one, my combatants. RIP Mortal Kombat.